Why I sing.
Make unbearable medical bills for your child go away. For as little as $2,400 per month, sign up for Sagicor School Companion today. The time by Sagicor Life is...
The time is now 7 a.m. on the sound of Love 101 FM, and it's now time for the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the first watch today. Avondale Prep and the transgender bathroom sign. In the second watch, we look at Heroes Part 2, Sam Sharp and Nanny. For our social media question, we ask, what are your thoughts on transgender bathrooms? Share your responses in our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube Live, and also WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on the program, but first, here's our quote. Victor?
Yes, sir. So today's I quote, just a sec. Today's I quote is from Jukal. It's easy to demonize from a distance. Sorry, today's I quote is from Rick Warren. It's easy to demonize from a distance. And what that's speaking about is it's easy to kind of judge something and dismiss it, write it off, see it as insignificant, wrong, or bad if we don't take time to understand it.
Very interesting. Very interesting, Victor. Interesting. I quote, good morning, Victor. I hope that you are well.
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Yes, I am doing well today. I was not so well yesterday. It was a really, terrible morning for me yesterday, but I am well now and I am happy to be back on the Morning Watch, and I am grateful for all the outpouring of love and support from Love 101 and from all other persons concerned. I am well and I'm glad to be back on the Morning Watch. The first watch will be back after this break.
Follow Grace Sardine, follow the better flavor. Grace Sardine with the chef and the beginner. Follow the one with pepper, that are the winner. Shop and supermarket, everybody sell it. Do all of them nice. Pass the back, make push it.
Grace Sardines, follow the better flavor.
Well, if you want buy appliances for your home with the quality high and the price low, get it on Habashco. Get it on Habashco.
Sign up online for your free Bashco loyalty card at www.bashcojm.com. It's easy and it's free. Shop and earn 3% cashback on every purchase. www.bashcojm.com.
Bashco, the store that gives you more. Bashco.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Meet your trusted insurance agent from General Accident Insurance Company, Kadeen Williamson. You deserve personalized attention when you get insurance. Kadeen Williamson, an agent of change for better customer care and experience. Contact us at Suite Number 7, Sun Village Plaza, 6 North Racecourse Road, Mandeville. Call 876-616-1723 or 563-1020. Email williamsonc@genac.com. From General Accident Insurance Company.
Good morning and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall, and for those who were with us from a couple of minutes ago, welcome back. There is a viral video on TikTok, and you'll probably see the same video on other platforms of an irate mother, or who says she's an irate mother. She indicates that her child is going to a preparatory school in Jamaica. The name of the school apparently is Avondale Preparatory and Kindergarten. Now, her ayah is at the seeming transgender philosophy, it would appear, being introduced into the school, and she indicated an experience that her child had at the school, and the reference was also made to a bathroom sign where you would see the symbol for the male, the symbol for the female, and then another symbol which, when taken together, has been in some circles taken to mean that you're including persons who are transgender to use the facility, the bathroom facility. Now, bearing in mind that a preparatory school is of the primary level, so small children who are impressionable would be seeing the sign and might be impacted by what is happening in terms of the sign, and the mother herself has a number of concerns. Now, we should be having online this morning Dr. Daniel Thomas, president of the Love March movement. And of course, we also have today our very own announcer, Mr. Victor Brown, who himself may have some thoughts on the matter. So far, I think Mr. Brown, of course, who would be with us, he's our announcer. Mr. Brown, good day. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right, Stokeley. How are you?
Yes, as our quasi guest for today, I think we now have Dr. Daniel Thomas online as well.
Yes,
But
we do.
starting with you, Victor, because you are someone who deals with a lot of young people's issues,
Yeah, definitely.
and you understand very much how young children and young people as a whole think about issues.
Yeah,
And although this sign is in a in a primary school level school, a prep school, as we typically say, prep schools,
hmm
you don't know if going forward you'll be seeing a similar sign in high schools or
yeah,
universities or elsewhere.
yeah.
So, Mr. Brown, what are your thoughts on this particular sign, which is allegedly there? Because I haven't seen it personally, and I'm not yet seeing, I stand corrected, but I have not yet seen where Avondale Prep has replied to this allegation. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern is just how impressionable our younger generations are, our kids or youth. And so what I see taking place is this sort of approach by persons who hold a very strong stance or view on sympathy toward a transgender ideology. Something which I personally don't agree with, for personal reasons and for biblical Christian reasons. As my issue is just how well persons who are proponents of an ideology of sexual deviance know how to target younger minds, persons who don't know how to smell or see or identify danger. And so the fact that this thing was introduced in a school at that level is very telling. It's very telling that it wasn't brought to a college institution with grown adults. It wasn't brought to a workplace with grown adults in a professional environment. And I'm not saying that there isn't a desire to do these things, but it does bear some interesting note that this was introduced in a school level where the minds of the persons who it's going to affect the most are not yet formed in such a way to even have an informed opinion on this particular matter. But my good friend Daniel, Dr. Daniel Thomas, is really the expert on this field. And so I would love to hear his thoughts on this whole situation.
Dr. Thomas, I'm not even sure if such a sign should be anywhere at all, but suffice it to say, your response. And again, we have no one online from Avondale Prep, and I'm treating it as an allegation. I have not seen them respond, but to the extent that it may be true, Dr. Daniel Thomas, your thoughts?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for having me again, Stokeley. This sign was brought to my attention and the attention of the Love March movement through a parent who raised alarm. She had two concerns. She mentioned this particular sign where there's a male, female, and then a sign of a half male, half female stick person. For those who can imagine, for those of us who know what bathroom signs look like and can imagine the male and female, you can imagine that there's a third sign there in the middle of the prep school. And she also had some concerns
And,
about...
and Dr. Thomas, can you just enlighten the listeners as to what that sign typically means?
Right. So the sign typically relates to transgender.
Hold that thought, Dr. Daniel Thomas. Hold that thought, because we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us for this segment. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Did you know that many of my schoolmates have an unhealthy diet, especially at school? And now 23% of them are overweight and or obese? And so one less sugary drink at my school may mean one friend less, or two or three, at risk of cavities or diabetes. And if we're served less foods high in saturated fats, sugar, and sodium, it may reduce our risk from obesity, heart disease, and high blood pressure. The solution is simple, right? Act now. Let's get unhealthy foods and beverages out of our schools.
A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica and partners. Looking to own a home and put down your roots? Join us at the Sagicor Bank Mortgage Boutique this Saturday, October 14, Fairview Branch, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn how to reduce your carbon footprint in your home with recycling, going solar, and eco-car charging station at home. Plus, get tips on landscaping, eco-paints, and inverter appliances. Apply for your mortgage on location and get a competitive mortgage rate. 0.25% off commitment fee, on-site pre-qualification, $20,000 gift voucher for appliances, a Sagicor Bank Star Savers account with $5,000 for your child. Plus, on mortgage approval, you could be one of 3 winners of a patio set, living room set, or inverter AC with free installation. The Sagicor Bank Mortgage Boutique this Saturday, Fairview Branch, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58(3) of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act.
Do you have questions about the availability of medication from your drugstore pharmacist? Ask your pharmacist. Contact the NHF to find out more. The time by the NHF is
7:15 a.m.
In 2022, 51 projects were completed under the Urban Renewal Program. This includes zinc fence removal, installation of solar lights and street signs, and the upgrade of parks and green spaces. The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation is reviving the urban landscape, renewing communities for a better tomorrow.
Cinerose Chromium Plus is an all-natural herbal product formulated specially for people with type 2 diabetes. An elevated sugar level in the blood will lead to renal failure, damage to the brain, and amputation of your toes or feet, damage to the heart, stroke, ECT. Cinerose Chromium Plus will reduce the level of sugar in the blood, taking it down to normal, and protect you. To get your Cinerose Chromium Plus, call Havco Herbs and Extracts, 876-540-8871.
Jamaica. Let's come together to celebrate a proud heritage. This Heritage Week, October 10 to 16. Highlights will include National Heritage Week Church Service, Bethel Temple Apostolic Church in Maypen, Sunday, October 15 at 10 a.m. Ceremony of Investiture of National Honors and Awards, Monday, October 16 at 8 a.m. National Heroes Day Concert, Monday, October 16 at 5 p.m. Most events will be broadcast live on TVJ, CVM, IRI FM, and social media platforms. Heritage Week 2023, celebrating a proud heritage, resilient and strong.
Hello and welcome back to the Morning Watch. I am your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and the topic in this first watch is Avondale Prep and the transgender bathroom sign. Our guest is Dr. Daniel Thomas, president of the Love March movement, and we're also canvassing thoughts and opinions from our very own announcer, Mr. Victor Brown. Dr. Daniel Thomas, you had indicated what the sign means, or what it is understood to mean generally. Transgender or transgenderism. The word you said was transgender. Can you just give us a little bit of background? Do not assume that everyone knows what you mean.
Right.
And also indicate to us from a Christian perspective, and just generally speaking, even from a scientific perspective, what challenges you have with this issue.
Certainly. Thanks again, Stokeley, for having me. You know, this is an issue of significant concern in this day and age. Transgenderism really refers to the idea that one can change their gender from male to female or female to male by changing their appearance or doing hormone therapy or sex change surgery and things like that. And so, these are very mature topics. And so that is the major concern with this particular sign being very, very suggestive and normalizing this idea that you can have somebody who can, move between being a male and being a female. And that in a prep school, and when I wanted to see for myself, so I went there. It is a kindergarten and prep school, and this sign.
So you went there yourself and you saw the sign, Dr. Thomas?
Yeah, man. I saw the sign.
Okay.
I made a video about it. to let persons know that this was indeed so, that what this parent had said was not just, make up story, and she was just upset for no reason, but she had
So,
reason to be
Dr.
upset.
Thomas, did you see one such sign or did you see more than one such sign? Was it in more than one location in the school?
I only saw one sign, and as they said, it was for the visitors' bathroom, right? And so I took pictures and made a
When you
video
say
about it.
when you say visitors' bathroom, the children would not ordinarily use that bathroom.
Right,
The students.
the children wouldn't be allowed to use it, but the way it is positioned, it is right in the middle of the school, so the students are going right past multiple times per day. And
Oh, I see. I see. I see.
I think that a child would look at the sign and say, "Miss, what is that? I know male and female. What is that third one there? And then
I
am I
see.
third one?" And that is my concern. As Victor mentioned, the impressionable nature of our children. Children are very inquisitive. Children are always trying to learn and ask questions. And
No, Dr. Thomas, I know I'm cutting into what you're saying, but because of limited time, did you speak to any of the school administrators or teachers about the sign?
Right. So I had a brief conversation with them. I was told that the sign was for visitors.
With them who?
With two administrators, not in a high level. So my goal wasn't to interview anyone. My goal was just to see if the sign was there. But I did have a brief conversation. I was told that the sign was not in relation to LGBTQ issues, but was supposed to be for visitors who would be confused. Maybe they don't know if they're male or female. They can use that bathroom too. That kind of thing. And I found that to be quite.
So if I can paraphrase, sir, you were told that this sign is for visitors, and in case the visitor is confused about their gender, they would be free to use that bathroom.
Right, certainly. And
Okay.
that what was communicated to me. And also I was told that the Ministry of Education went and approved the sign. That is what I was told. Right. I have not been able to
Stick up in, Dr. Thomas. You're saying on Love 101, this is probably breaking news right now in Jamaica. You are saying that the Ministry of Education of Jamaica, headed by the Honorable Fable Williams, approved that sign.
I am saying that I was told that the Ministry of Education went and they looked at the sign and said that this was appropriate for prep school students to see this sign. Right now, the video that made.
Did you confirm with the Ministry of Education if they had in fact said it was appropriate?
No, man, but we're waiting on a response. We're waiting to hear what the ministry say.
Did you contact them? You contact them by phone, or you wrote to them and sent an email? What did you do?
So they have been contacted, not directly by me, but the issue has been raised. I've been assured that it has been raised with representatives in significant standing in the Ministry of Education, and so we're awaiting what the response will be. So I did not have a personal conversation or sent a personal letter, but I was assured that it was raised.
This is quite a tectonic. If everything that you have said is correct, and I have no reason to doubt that you saw the sign, you went there and you saw the sign and you spoke to persons in the administration, this is quite tectonic. Okay, so Dr. Thomas, tell persons, if you will, briefly about what people generally think is the difference between gender and sex, and continue to explain to us what it is that this sign can symbolize and what would you like done about the sign.
Right, so there are some interesting ideas related to the relationship with gender and sex. There has been a significant effort to completely differentiate the two things, saying that one is not relatable to the other one at all, right? That they are not linked, and that is something to be challenged. There is no evidence of that. These things.
So, in the interest of time, and I want to bring back Victor on. People, generally speaking, say that gender is how you feel in your mind about your sexuality, whereas sex is referring to biological sex. Have I said it correctly?
Right. So right. sex would be more biological, and gender would relate to the role that persons play, masculine or feminine. And so there has been an effort in recent years to differentiate masculine from male and feminine from female, right? But
I see. So you could have a male who acts feminine and female who acts male, and they would probably dress appropriately in terms of clothing, etc.
Right. And so there would be cross-dressing, but further, more fundamentally, it goes to the idea that if I'm on screen right now, if I say I'm a female and I just look at you, you should actually address me as a female. So I suddenly became female in that moment.
So I must call you she or her.
So it has nothing to do with actual objective evidence, but actually just my desire suddenly caused me to be worthy of the label female and woman, to be able to go into female bathrooms, to be able to participate in women's sports. And that is what we're seeing in the draft transgender policy at the University of the West Indies. This kind of idea, which is not based in scientific evidence, but based in a fairy tale kind of world where one does not have to do anything and base it in reality, but just has to have desire. Okay, so this is very concerning.
And Dr. Thomas, just for the benefit of the listeners, I gather that some would go to the extreme and say they'd want to, a male would, for example, perhaps want to even remove his male reproductive organ in order to do some sort of, use surgery to put in an organ that appears to be that of a female, and vice versa.
Certainly, there are all kinds of therapies that have been invented to lead persons down this path, right? But what the reality is that there's an actual condition called gender dysphoria, where a person, typically a young person, typically males in the 2-year-old range, would start to have a desire to say that they're actually not males, but they're females. But this we know is a psychiatric disorder. But interestingly, there has been an epidemic among females of adolescent age, especially in the United States, where the idea promoted by the same sign has been kind of ubiquitous all over the place. Many females now have been saying that they're actually males. And so there's a concern that it is not related to any actual normally developing psychiatric condition, but that there's a hysteria and a social influence, because it is in their textbooks, it is in their face. When you go to the school, they're asking the children, are you male or are you female? And do you want to be called a boy or a girl? And so that is the kind of symbol that the Avondale Prep transgender bathroom sign is signaling. That's why parents are upset and very concerned, and that's why our video on TikTok has over 100,000 views, because parents are concerned.
Our video meaning Love March's video?
Right, the same video made on this
topic. Only understood. You have a video with over 100,000 views, Dr. Thomas. Only because of time, I need to bring Victor back in. Victor, we're going to wrap now, but you've heard Dr. Thomas. I want to give him enough time to explain everything that he's saying. This sign obviously should be removed. Definitely. Tell us how we should go about this thing going forward, Victor, in your view.
Yeah, I definitely, it's starting to know that this is here now. It's not surprising, because we've been seeing the trends. People like Dan and Love March movement have been harbingers, pretty much, heralding that there are things happening that we need to pay attention to. But from where I stand, I believe persons who have gender dysphoria, which is a very real mental condition, they can be clinically diagnosed if that's the case, and they can be the state. What we should focus on is not affirming mental illness and validating persons who are confused about their sexuality. What we really should be gearing our state resources toward is providing healthcare, is providing therapy, if that's government subsidized therapy and psychiatric sessions for persons to be helped with mental conditions that cause them to be confused about their physiology and sexuality. It's not putting up signs to celebrate confusion about identity. You follow what I'm saying? So, in a few words, I think that's what we need to do, help those who are struggling with this issue, not validate persons in a grand illusion.
And I'm reminded of the scripture that we are not to mislead the children. It's better that a millstone be put around your neck if that's what we do, whether we do it deliberately or well. I won't. I'm not a theologian. I won't try to dissect that scripture much more.
Let me tell you, Stokeley, teachers have a responsibility. Principals and administrators have a significant responsibility from the word of God to not lead children astray. That scripture that you're referring to did come to my mind. We have to be more vigilant. We cannot be in this day and age and pretending like the devil is not out here trying to turn our young boys into young girls and emasculate them completely, and vice versa. We have to be vigilant, and we're saying anybody in any school that sees anything like this, please message the Love March movement. Okay, we're on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, we're on all social media. Let us know what is going on, because we cannot sit back and allow this thing to creep into our prep schools, our kindergarten schools, our high schools. We have to be alert, and I want to challenge all teachers. Don't be in the school pretending as though you can just take off the Christian hat and then you can teach about abortion, being the advantages of abortion,
Dr. Thomas,
or anything like that. We have to be very careful about that. From the word of God, there's a warning to teachers and education as well. We're looking to hear from you. Please. We need to
Dr. Thomas, only because of time, we have to break at this point. Listeners, we'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Anything possible with a little savings in your hand. Save so you can.
The time by Jan Bank is.
It is now 7:30 a.m.
Excuse me, sir. How much patty you are buying?
Me no know.
Me think you should buy 5.
Why? Why me fi buy 5?
Cause juicy patty have a cheesy surprise.
When you buy any 5 juicy patties, you can cheese it up for free.
Yeah, all 5 patty full of cheese. And it's anchor cheese, you know. And did I tell you it's only for the month of October? So you better run go down there fast. Right now, cheese! Cheese it up. Upgrade 5 patty to cheese for free today. At any juicy patty island-wide.
Conditions apply.
As our family grows, our home internet needs have grown too.
And now, with Flow's fiber-fast internet and smart Wi-Fi coverage, we're always connected in any room at home.
With Yacht on Road Plus, get gig speed, fiber-fast internet, smart Wi-Fi, plus unlimited mobile on the go. All for the special offer of only $6,999 plus GCT a month. Fiber-fast internet and smart Wi-Fi coverage inspired by you. Visit a Flow store today. Conditions apply.
Do you have questions about the availability of medication from your drugs or pharmacist?
Ask your pharmacist.
Contact your pharmacist today by using our online request form via our website, calling 876-906-1106 or texting 876-219-9937, Mondays to Fridays, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. or by emailing rxsupport@nhf.org.jm. NHF is here for health. NHF is here for you.
Ask your pharmacist.
Planning to sit the January CXC CSEC exams privately? Register with Overseas Examinations Commission before the registration deadline, October 13, 2023. Visit our Kingston office or Montego Bay office to complete your application form or send an email to help@overseasexams.org.jm. Follow our social media pages at Overseas Exams for more details. Remember, if you plan to sit the January CXC CSEC exams privately, the registration deadline is October 13, 2023.
Once upon a time, there's a girl named Kay. She loved to dance and play. One day at school, she got very ill, and Mom was left with an unbearable bill. It would be easier if Mom was prepared. With School Companion, 80% of the bill is cleared. Medical care for children is a must for as low as $2,400 per month. Make unbearable medical bills go away. Sign up for Sagicor School Companion today.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we start with Loop Jamaica News. We have cop shot while on routine traffic duties in Hanover. That is not good at all. We also have in Loop Jamaica News, restive Petrojam workers expected back on the job today. We now turn to the Observer. We have among the various stories, Barnett facing the boot. NWC president's fate in Prime Minister's hands. In Prime Minister's hands after scathing Integrity Commission report. We also have among the various stories in the Observer, witness recorded over 120 phone conversations with Beachy Stout, claims he did not get $3 million promised for murdering businessman's wife. A lot of people have been following up that particular story case. We have in the Gleaner, restive Petrojam workers expected to resume work Thursday, says Energy Minister. And again, reference to the National Water Commission, NWC head Mark Barnett, in conflict of interest over $900,000 bill he disputes. And there's reference to the Integrity Commission. Well, those and many other stories in our various news sources. Of course, coming up next, we'll read this feedback from our social media question, which is, what are your thoughts on transgender bathrooms? Leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp, 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Get ready for another exciting show inside Alive 1 to 5 this throwback Thursday, October 12th. It will be a time to recollect and reconnect. Stick around for Fur Blast at 2 o'clock. 2:15, we go to Pieces of the Past. Then at 3 o'clock, Make We Talk. All of the will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. This throwback Thursday, October 12th on the family station, Love 101. Celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
The truly marvelous program To Have and to Hold takes to you this week, Thursday, October 12 at 5:30 p.m., Managing Different Stages in Relationships with your co-host, Pastor Napoleon Black, and your usual host, Colleen Beckles, right here on the family station, Love 101.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Victor now for a look at how our friends in social media landscape, Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, answer today's question. What are your thoughts on transgender bathrooms, Victor?
Certainly. So this one coming from Faith in Washington Gardens. Good morning to you both, the team, and everyone listening in the audience. Thank God you're okay this morning, brother. I missed you yesterday. That was from Faith to you, Stokeley. Regarding
Thank you so much.
She says, that's foolishness. God created male and female only. This other response on WhatsApp says, it's a no for me. Doing that would only mean they are opening up Pandora's box of chaos for our children and our nation. As Christian parents, we have to stand up for something. Allowing that in schools will only cause confusion in the minds of our children, who are already impressionable, and that is what the devil wants. Christian parents should remove their kids from schools in unity if they try to do that. I'll remove mine and homeschool them immediately. This one comes from Cherry in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Good morning. What does having a transgender bathroom in schools mean? Well, she's saying the sign indicates that, hey, I'm transgender. And her question is, why are we doing this? What are we doing to our children? And she says that is absurd. Edna from Mobay also says that, this is something that should not be done. And so overall, the responses, Stokeley, are overwhelmingly Mainly no. Monica says, when you stir me up this morning, I eat at them take with her. And this other response says, good morning. Why not put adults only on the bathroom at the school? And so there are quite a few, responses here. One on YouTube says that should not be. It would appear that the admin are promoting transgenderism. So those are some of our social media responses, Stokeley.
Thank you very much, Victor. Well, we move right into the second watch. Our listeners have spoken, and I thank the listener who expressed her good thoughts towards me. I thank you for that comment, for your thoughts. We get right into the second watch as we celebrate Heritage Week and Heroes Day. And today we look at Nanny and Sam Sharp, two of our national heroes. We have been doing a series. And to discuss this and related issues, we have with us today Dr. Ann Bailey, author, researcher, writer, public speaker, historian, professor of history and African American and Caribbean studies, history and memory at the State University of New York, Binghamton. Good morning, Dr. Bailey.
Good morning, Mr. Marshall. How are you?
Excellent. I'm fine. Excellent having you again.
Yes, a
I
pleasure.
remember our last conversation, very informative.
Exactly. It was very
And I do,
productive.
yes, and I do apologize to our listeners if you're hearing us chatty.
Yes,
We're
I
trying
am. I
to,
was wondering. Mhm.
we are trying to, it started when you were coming on, Dr. Bailey. No indictment on you at all, but we're trying to rectify it.
I'm wondering, should I try to come on from another?
Well, we will likely be guided as to how to approach it, but we will try our best until the matter is resolved.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
wondering.
Now, Dr. Bailey, I don't want us to have the typical textbook type of conversation about Nanny and Sam Sharp. And I don't think that's what you want either.
No.
We would like to also look at the way they have contributed, to our heritage, and the greater significance that these heroes have had. And you want to start with? I'll let you start with whichever hero you wish to start with, whether Nanny or Sam Sharp.
Well, first of all, I think that I'm glad that you are featuring both a man and a woman today, because I think that says a lot about the role that both men and women have had in helping us to achieve our freedom in Jamaica and in the Caribbean more generally. Um, I want to start with Sam Sharp, because Sam Sharp, sometimes we forget two things about him. That one, he was a Baptist preacher, so he was a Christian, and that he really was for nonviolence. That was his first idea, was to have a passive, not passive, because I don't think when you have any kind of act of nonviolence where you are protesting with nonviolence is very active. But his it was really in the vein of Martin Luther King. He wanted to have a protest and to organize a protest on the plantations. A work slowdown, so forth, in order to say we need to have our rights, we need to be free. It then turned into something else. But at the same time, the plan was to peacefully protest. And I think that's something that Jamaica has to remember, especially in light of the fact that we have issues with violence, that there are ways to solve our conflicts. There are ways to address our conflicts non-violently. And if we use our very strong inclination towards Christianity and other religions, and with our faith. And so that's what Sam Sharp represents to me, the ability to be a man of faith, but also stand up for his rights, and also, frankly, achieve such a great legacy. Because the fact is, even though the rebellion was stamped out by the British, it was just a few years later that the British, taking that into account, abolished slavery. Um, you know, was the first death knell on the end of slavery in 1834. That was the beginning of the end. So we want to say that, you know, his work, his attitude, his philosophy was not in vain.
You know, on a broadcasting note, Dr. Bailey, if you wish, you can turn your camera off if that's what you'd rather to do. But, you know, you have said that in relation to Sam Sharp. What about Nanny? She seemed to have taken a somewhat different approach, or did she not?
Well, I think she was in a different time, and
Okay.
she had no, I think she had absolutely no, there was no other way but to violently move the way that she did. And I think this is part of the problem with, and part of the issue that we face, that there is a time for peace, there's a time for war. And we understand that. We can't be blind to the fact that the Bible says it, and it's true. And that was a time of war. There was no negotiation until there was a negotiation. But first there had to be escape to the Blue Mountains, and then there had to be violent resistance. So that was necessary in that time.
Dr. Bailey, hold that thought 1 second. It's interesting that we're having this discussion the way we're having it, but we are already probably a little bit past the break. Listeners, don't go anywhere at all. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
On supermarkets, everybody selling sardines. Follow the better flavor.
The time is
7:46 a.m.
Every time my son send the liquor barrel for me, I have to go sit down and waff all day like me have nothing else to do. No, sir, me not fear do this.
Tired of spending all day at the wharf to clear your barrel?
Driver, turn up that little bit for me there.
Starting May 1, use contactless clearance to clear your non-commercial shipments and avoid the long wait. Call Jamaica Customs today at 876-922-51408 or email contactlessclearance@jca.gov.jm.
But God goody, me I go call customs and learn about the contactless clearance. Hook me up.
Less waiting, more convenience. Try Customs contactless clearance today.
I've been hearing about this constitutional reform thing. You know anything about it?
Yes, constitutional reform is a chance for us to Jamaicanize the constitution.
But how?
Enough things changed since 1962, and we have matured as a nation. So modernizing the constitution will reflect our current societal values.
Oh, a constitution for Jamaicans, approved by Jamaicans.
Are you ready for the journey? Join us on the road to Republic. Think independence, think Republic. A message from the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. JN Bank will help you find a way.
Beck Author Production presents Jesus in the City, a live concert at the Montego Bay Community College Auditorium on Saturday, October 21st at 6:30 p.m. Live in concert, Adrian Cunningham, Donna Thompson Hall, Petra Kay, Jai Kingston, Sean Dre Cowan, John Mark Wigan, DJ Chinny, and much more. Admission $2,000 pre-sold, VIP $4,000, children you pay $1,000. It's Jesus in the City, Montego Bay Community College, Saturday, October 21st. You must be there.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, having a very interesting discussion today in a series titled Myths, Legends, and Heroes, Part 2. And today we're focusing on the heroes, Sam Sharp and the nanny. Our guest is Dr. Ann Bailey, author, researcher, writer, public speaker, historian, professor of history and African American and Caribbean Studies, history and memory at the State University of New York, Binghamton. Dr. Bailey, just before the break, you were outlining to us that Nanny would not have been able to engage in the sort of peaceful resistance or, the sort of peaceful response that Sam Sharp would have been more able to do because she was in a different time. But I want to quickly raise this with you. There has been much criticism in some quarters or in many quarters in relation to the peace treaty of the Maroons. Of course, Nanny was a Maroon.
Sure.
And in a nutshell, a part of the agreement, or you could say a clause in the agreement was, to paraphrase, that runaway slaves that the Maroons see would be returned to their, I hate to say owners, to the plantation, or to the persons who at that time, based on the upside down laws that they had, I'm putting that in, the upside down laws that they had, these persons were the property of other people. Any comments on that? Because almost every time the issue of marronage comes up, you hear that sort of thing come up.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned it. I find that really comes, it's not an unfair question, but for those listening, I hope I can put this to bed once and for all. The Maroons, they fought for their freedom in the 1720s and 1730s. We have to understand that's a full 1 century before the rest of Jamaica, the rest of people of African descent who were enslaved on the island and elsewhere in the British Caribbean got their freedom. That was the trajectory. That's where things were headed. It was a century away. The fact that they were the first ones and the only ones to get their freedom is in and of itself incredibly important. The fact that they had no choice but to make a pact like this. I'm not saying, it's easy for us in retrospect to look back and say that was the wrong compromise to make. But it's the same kind of thing that happened on the African continent. When you are surrounded, right, by these forces which are determined to enslave everyone, you end up being in what I call in my book, African Voices of the Atlantic Slave Trade. You end up being in a sell or be sold situation. That happened on
Yeah.
the
Can you slow down and repeat that, please? You end up being
a sell or be sold situation.
Okay.
And it's easy for us to judge in retrospect, but when you're in that enormously compromising position, you don't end up having a lot of choices. That's what happened on the African continent. And on this side, what happened was the compromise that the Maroons eventually faced. Obviously, that was not their first choice. If they ran away to the hills, they would have wanted everyone that could have run away and safely ensconced themselves in the hills in that community, to be in that community. But for them to preserve the freedom of some, they had to make that compromise. So it was a sad compromise, but nonetheless, I think it does not tarnish their reputation, in my view, at all. And in fact, I think they remained an inspiration to those who believed that they were meant to be free, hoped for their freedom, agitated for their freedom, as later others like Sam Sharp and others did. They remained an inspiration. They absolutely did. And I think we should never use that clause and that compromising situation that they were forced to make, to tarnish the fact that they were the first emblems of freedom that we had in the Caribbean and in Jamaica. For that
Very
to
interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but I would say that I am part Maroon in terms
oh,
of my own lineage. I am told that one of my grandfathers was a Maroon from great grandfathers
that's
was a
wonderful.
Maroon from Saint Elizabeth.
That's wonderful. Hmm.
Yes, so I
Absolutely.
was told, and sometimes we share some little stories about that.
I think and may I ask you, may I suggest, my family is both from St. Elizabeth and Portland. I'm based in Portland, back and forth, based in Portland now, not far from Moortown and Charlestown and all those places. And let me just say that I really feel the importance of connecting. I was just up at Kampong at their big celebration last January. Wonderful celebration. Great to see Chief Curry doing what he's doing. I want to give a big shout out to him and encourage that community and the other Maroon communities to stay strong and to stay independent. I think it's time for Jamaica to just reconcile the fact that you need to know that around the world, our Maroons are highly, highly respected. So many books, so many articles written about them, and very little mentioned about this issue that they were forced into this terrible compromise. Most of the
it,
emphasis has been on their freedom fighting and their freedom loving
it, 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 it,
determination.
it sort of reminds me of the compromise that the Haitians themselves were forced into, where they were forced to pay
Absolutely.
reparations
Absolutely. Absolutely.
at
So
the
how
time that they
can you
did
blame
about
them? Can you
1825, they were about.
Exactly. You see, so the Haitians, they win their freedom. For anyone who's listening who
Yes.
doesn't know the story, please look this up. Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James. This is our history. Go find it. Their Haitian history is our history too, because they also signaled to the rest of the enslaved world freedom was possible. So they fought for their freedom from 1791 to 1804. They beat the so-called Great Napoleon. Okay,
Yes, yes.
the so-called Great Napoleon. They beat him and won their freedom and were the first Black republic in the entire hemisphere in 1804. But what happened? They were so, it's like you're outnumbered. It's a David and Goliath story. They
Yes.
won.
You're outnumbered by all the nations on the earth.
Exactly. And what do, Stokely? What do they
They
do?
forced them to pay reparations.
There you go.
And I
No,
believe
first,
I
no,
believe it has
first they
caused the
embargoed
poverty
them.
or helped contribute to the poverty of Haiti to this day.
Exactly. First they embargo them and say no trade with Haiti at
No
all.
trade.
Now,
We're not doing business with you.
what can you do? What do you do with that?
Yes, yes,
Tell me,
yes,
what do you
yes,
do with that? If you can't
yes,
trade
yes.
as a nation, you can't eat. So they starved them, and then they said, if we're going to allow you to trade again, if we're going to allow you to bring you back into the rest of the nations of the world to trade with you, you have to pay reparations. So it's these
Yes,
kinds of compromises. You can't blame the victim. You
yes,
can't
yes.
blame the victim.
It reminds us of today's, I quote, it's easy to demonize from a distance. It
Right.
was authored by Rick Warren, Pastor Rick Warren. It's easy
Absolutely.
to demonize from a distance. We are totally out of time already, Dr. Ann Bailey. Always very interesting speaking with you. Is there a
Thank
final
you.
thought you want to leave with us before we wrap?
One personally to you. I hope you will further investigate that history. I also want, because it's fascinating, and I also hope that those who are listening, you look back to our past, not just to feel pride, but also to feel a sense of purpose. When you have a sense of purpose, there's a whole different way you walk in the world. A
Yes,
whole different way you walk in the world.
yes.
You look for the best, you work with others charitably, and you try to live in peace with others as well.
Thank you, Dr. Bailey. Excellent way on which to end. I want to thank you, Dr. Bailey, for spending your time with us today. Very informative and very thought-provoking indeed. And thank you, listeners, for being with us. For information on how to get copies of the program, call our production department at 876-968-9527. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guest, John Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint. Next week, as he continues to look at the issues of the day. I am Stokeley Marshall, handing back over in the morning with Victor.